Hi, loves. So apologize in advance. There's going to be noise behind me. There's construction going on, and it was silent until I sat down to do this video, which is what I knew would happen. But I'm going to do it anyway because we're preparing for the next cycle of her mystery school. And there are a few things that as I'm preparing for it, we're going into the 5th year. There are a few things that have become more clear to me as we have moved through these 5 years. Largely in terms of what are the deeper truths or deeper movements in the feminine being that her mystery school is addressing or is meeting, validating, fortifying. And that has become more clear to me, when I created the school originally, which is a big other story, it's a mystery school, meaning there is all about it is how do we meet life as the mystery it is? How do we meet ourselves as the revelation that we are? There's an openness on the edges of a deeper core truth where, we're open to be shown, right? In all the practices and all the teachings, we're open to be shown what we really are. What is the truth? Right? What's moving inside of us? And so the school has been similar. What is this? There's a question, there's a curiosity. What all is this? And so I wanted to talk to you, whether or not you're drawn to the school and want to come to it and join us for this cycle. It's a 9-month-long supported journey together. Whether or not that's what you want, I want to speak to I was thinking about them as 3 of the biggest lies ever told to women, right? 3 of the biggest distortions or illusions that I have found in myself and that I see moving through a lot of the women in the school that feel really fundamental to me and important. And whatever is emerging in you, whatever you're facing, whatever that, from the deep inner privacy of your being, what you're called to, what you know without being told, what you this navigation from soul, right, that many of us are feeling and not always feeling validated in. Whatever that emergence is, I want to offer these 3 considerations for you in your journey towards your own emergence. So the first lie that I see, or the first distortion, it has something to do with that you can be broken, that your innocence can be taken, and you will never retrieve it, right? And, I see that largely, most of us, right, especially in our experience as sexual beings, as women who hold female sexual capacity and that force and all the ways it's been commodified, manipulated, violated, all these things. I see that playing out a lot there. This kind of deeply absorbed and insidious message that something can be taken from you there that you'll never recover, right? And I've had my own journey with that, but what I would share with you is the story of a mentor of mine and a woman so I went through a really significant collapse 3 years ago, and hardly anybody could meet me in that. I was in a really bad way, and for a while, and this woman, I just trusted her. I knew she was with me. I was in such a descent. I was so lost. I was suffering so deeply and felt incredibly broken, right? And she met me there. And I remember, I sat with her many times. I continue to sit with her. And I remember looking at her and thinking to myself, she's been through something really significant. What is that? Because her clarity, her connection, just her wisdom, her joy, right, was so trustworthy, was so claimed. And I'm pretty sensitive to that kind of stuff. So I always knew that there was a big story there, and she's just started writing her story, writing the book of her story. And in short version, she was ritually sexually abused from the age of 3 to 14. And in an experience that often ends in suicide or the death of children, she has somehow, and not just somehow, but she has, although having been very shaped by that experience, she has come to the other side. And she's 50 now, right? But she is a pillar of life. She's a pillar of, she's kind of like hope incarnate, but not in any kind of, not in any kind of fluffy way, because she's been through it, you know, in a way that many of us, I hope, almost all of us will never understand. Why I bring that forward, even though it is a really disturbing and upsetting story, is that, you know, she is an extreme version of someone who has been shaped by her experience, but not broken by it. And I see that as the journey many women are going through. We have these experiences. We experience violation. We experience a certain way in which innocence is ripped away, or a certain way in which something so important is taken, right? Or dehumanized, or whatever that is. And I see a lot of women kind of walking the line between, you know, believing that they'll be forever broken, kind of like deeply in that place, and also, and so wanting to believe that they can heal, like wanting to believe that, but not always really trusting, because it's, you know, these aren't things that get healed in a day, a year, right? They become life paths. The reclamation from being innocent to reclaiming innocence so that it's a full, so that it's even more full, right? The reclamation of sexuality, the reclamation of our intact sense of being, you know, the journey of reclamation is one that many of us make in many different ways. So that there's that conflict sometimes around not knowing if you can believe that you can actually heal, right? There's a big kind of leaning in to even that possibility for a lot of us, and in some of our deeper places. And, you know, I think what I want to say about that is where it becomes challenging is that we don't ever get to be what we were before those experiences, right? We don't. We are shaped. And I think a lot of what gets kind of put out there as empowerment, or put out there as a fully embodied femininity or whatever, has a lot of kind of idealized and unrealistic portraiture in it. And so, and it doesn't acknowledge that many of us in many different ways go through significant descents. We go through journeys into the underworld. We are taken there. We experience loss, devastation, violation, all these things, and it changes our whole being. And, you know, as we're working through her mystery school, the practices, the sensibilities, what we're doing is we're meeting that. Like, we've been shaped by whatever's happened until now, right? And that is often not what we wanted. Nothing we would have chosen. Inside of that, the reclamation happens, right? So there's an important shift away from portraiture, right? Away from expectations of what it means to heal, what it means to flower back into yourself, right? So I feel like it's a very nuanced topic, but it struck me again and again and again, including, you know, the mentors that work with me in the school have had long-term journeys also through a history of sexual abuse, familial sexual abuse, rape. You know, I myself have had a pretty significant experience of damage through being in relationship to a pornography addict, right? And it's all on the spectrum. But the underlying statement that I see, or the underlying distortion that I see being transformed in women through the school, through life, through the power of what remains incorruptible inside of us, is that we can come to a place of having been shaped, like not bypassing what's happened to us. Like, You know, my friend, her name is Isa, the one that I was mentioning, and many other women I know. They're amazing women. They live life fully. They are juicy. They have wisdom, right? They have strength. They are cultivated women. And, you know, they have had to come to a place of understanding that, like, well, maybe it won't ever be that they won't have anxiety, that they've been shaped in that way. But how are they going to hold that, honor that, right? And live inside of that. It becomes a lifelong journey of devotion. And again, it's maybe not what we would have chosen, but that's where we often end up. So I just want to put that forward in the hopes of releasing you from that kind of polarity between I will never heal and I can heal and be perfect if I just try really, really hard. You know, if I just do all the right things and whatever all the things are, right? And I'll know, because at some point I'll be fully healed and I won't have anxiety anymore. And when this or that happens, I won't get triggered anymore. I won't, right? When I'm in an intimate relationship, I won't have things come up anymore. It's like, actually, no, don't hold yourself between those two poles. You can be both. You can be shaped. And life can love you as you are shaped, as you've been shaped. And you can be shaped. Your vessel, your being can be shaped by these experiences, and what you polish that to become, what you flower inside, what you put inside of the vessel that you've become and inside of the ways that you've been shaped is where so much salvation and redemption and healing does lie, right? And does exist, does come. So I hope that's clear. It's been with me as I've been present to my friend and my teacher, my mentor, writing her book, and have just been in the presence of someone who has endured and triumphed over the unspeakable, right? And I know that she's not the only one. And I know that there's a full spectrum. And what I want to say to you is, I hope you release yourself from the expectation that you should get to some place where you're no longer affected by that or no longer shaped by that. And I hope you also simultaneously release yourself from the sense that there is no hope, that this is just something you'll have to deal with forever, that it won't transform for you, that you won't be able to touch the things that you were always meant to touch, that innocence or exuberance or just a feeling of intact presence, intactness in your being cannot be yours. That's the lie. It can. And you don't have to bypass or erase what's happened to you, right? Because you can't. We're all living lives that have not always been in our own control. Anyway, so that's one of the distortions that I want to bring forward. And another one, these are just some fundamental ones, you know. It's like, the other one is, you don't know, right? There's this, you know, I think a lot of what women touch into is a deep knowing. You just know, but you only can touch that knowing if you're able to drop in and go down and actually find it, right? Because the way that we know, the way that we hold self-authority is a very embodied, incarnate experience. It often draws on the things that we can't explain why we know them, right? Or we just know, or it's beyond the words that are being spoken. There's something in our heart. There's something in our gut. There's something in our womb that says, like, that is off. I know better here, right? And there's just so many ways, culturally and otherwise, that we've been taught to question our knowing, or to not even reside in a posture, in an inner posture that keeps us aligned with it, right? I would say mainstream conventional culture, modern culture, consistently pulls us off of our knowing in all sorts of ways because there's a simplicity to it, right? So one of the things that I think comes through the journey of her mystery school, that comes through turning repeatedly toward yourself, toward what lives inside of you that is more than just your personality, that's more than the story that you've lived, but that includes your capacities as a woman, the innate capacities of womankind, the ancient capacities of womankind. The remembrance that happens there over time, what it builds, what it fortifies inside of women is this knowing that they do know, and an ability to act from that, an ability to create life from that place, and to really occupy a kind of self-authority that is based on an inner knowing that is free of circumstance. I hope that makes sense. Meaning that, like, deep feminine self-authority, where you know that you know, where it's an influence, you don't have to, you just know that you know, it's inarguable. That is a residency inside of you. It often is simple. It often doesn't need to say anything, and doesn't need to be defended, explained. It's not your opinions. It is free of what the experts, what the culture, what anybody says, because it's yours. And it's a place where we deeply connect to lineage, and we deeply connect to something that was given to all of us, which is a profound self-authority that draws on, honors, and understands who each one of us really is, what's really for us, what's really in our best interest. That not only is it a deep place of knowing, and that is intact in us, it's also a place of inclusion of our own well-being and all that we know, right? In the way that we move, that what we know, if we go inside, like, this is internal terrain, right? And it is invalidated very much in modern culture in all sorts of ways. It is not social, it is not cultural, it is not political, it's not religious, it's nothing. All those things, you pick them up, you put them down, you find your own way with those. This is your inner privacy. This is what you steward, that nobody else stewards, that nobody else holds. And it's not answerable to anyone. You don't need to talk about it. You only need to know it, sit in it, acknowledge the resource that it is, and really turn again and again towards that inner private relationship, that inner private indwelling place of residency inside of you, right? I think that of course we don't know. There's a million things we'll never know. Humanity will never know. There's so much out there that's just opinion, and that is there is a lot of dispersive and oppositional knowing, right? When I talk about knowing, I mean indwelling self-authority that guides you step by step through whatever's in front of you, right? And there is a profound safety in that. There is a profound companionship in that will never leave you. And it does not require that you know what the hell's going on. It doesn't require that you know the answer or that you know who's right and wrong. It only asks that you come down and in, you listen, and you move from that place. And this is an entirely different way of knowing and navigating through what we're all in more than ever, and disorienting, oppositional, and very inflamed, confusing time of disintegration and a lot of push and pull. So that would be the second illusion, that you don't know. You know, I think what often happens from a sense of like we don't know and we don't have that deep internal compass that is not reliant on the external world, is that then we end up relying on the external world and our opinions and our presence there and what we say and what we do and what we're up for and what we stand for and all these things that eventually harden us and take us away from the supple, profound, and resourced knowing that is beyond all that, that can refine it, that can guide it and keep us from becoming just, kind of rigid concepts based on who we think we are, rather than a supple expression of the reality of what we are, the fullness of what we are. Okay, the third distortion that I feel like that I've seen in the school is some understanding, some belief that like the feminine, or I don't know what else, or the path of the feminine has gone somewhere, and is now needing to be, it was lost, was destroyed, was all these things happened, and in that, something was lost, something has been broken, something has been oppressed to the point of disappearance, right? Again, there's a line to walk there. We're not trying to look at history and not acknowledge what has happened, However, I think what's important to, it's what the mystery school is. It's what all, deep feminine tradition, deep feminine, that presence arises perennially. It is from an eternal source. So there are interrupted lineages, right? There are interrupted lineages and there's often for each of us a sense of being either orphaned or somehow interrupted or cut off from something that we need. This deep feminine lineage, the ancestresses at our back, the women who know, who uphold us, that the tradition, the practices, a lot of times, and this is where the mystery school eventually came from, was 2 decades of me saying, please, somebody help me, teach me, what is going on here? And being in multiple spiritual traditions, devoted and finding a lot, but never until now, until having really brought this together, never feeling like my womanhood was included, was itself a spiritual path, and was itself the mystery to be revealed, right? That there's now an inclusion of that, and that's what I consider deep feminine tradition. It's this ever-living, ever-upwelling, living tradition. Or, it's more tradition might be a hard description of it, because it's more like a river that runs and that is never not running, and we either go to drink from it or we go to drink from the well or we don't. And so I think what I would offer you is the consideration that in all the ways that you feel like womanhood or deep feminine presence or all these things have been invalidated and oppressed, and to just consider that presence, that reality can be interrupted by culture. It can be shaped by what culture goes through. We do endure and we do experience all sorts of things, brutality, invalidation, all these things. However, the river herself is always intact, and she's always closer than you think. And in all the ways, even when things are most, just in all the ways, she hides herself where she can always be found, right? She's hidden and she's revealed, right? And I just want to say to you that the emergence that you might feel as a woman, and what you feel called to, what you feel thirsty for in a way that you sometimes can't ever explain to anyone else, that is your thirst, it is your draw to this deeper living river. And it is there, it is intact. Nobody can take that away. It comes from the eternal, right? So, 3 distortions: that you can be broken, that your innocence can be taken and you can never reclaim it, that you don't know and you can't know, and that the lineage of sacred woman has been somehow destroyed, must be reinvented, must be recovered. There's a lot of work then in that. And what if that lineage is just right there for you to soften into? What if what you need more than anything is just validation, support, rhythmic reminders, than a whole bunch of doing things to help you fix the thing that you think is broken, right? In the school and in deep feminine practice in general, it's consistent remembrance. The point is not necessarily the teachings. The teachings are beautiful. The practices are beautiful. They are powerful. It's amazing. It's extraordinary. And the ultimate point is, the ultimate movement is that you just remember again and again, oh, there it is. Oh, that's where my knowing lies. Oh, that's what's at my back, throughout all time, right? So this is my offering to you today. I hope it's made some sense to you and been of service in some way. You are very welcome to join us for this next cycle of Her Mystery School. We start in about 2 weeks. We start on September 17th. The website is new. I've been working on it, and it goes up today, so you can go there to look at everything. There's a lot of testimonials now. We've got 5 years worth of women experiencing the school all over the world. And there's a lot more information. It's much more streamlined and makes some kind of linear sense that the other website did not. And I would love to have you. I really would. And if you're called, I hope you come. I hope that if it's true to the emergence inside of you, if it's true to a thirst that lives inside of you, and a knowing and a deep need to anchor into deep feminine lineage and holding, I really hope you respond to that calling. I know the inner privacy. Ultimately, there's a deep inner privacy in terms of our relationship to the sacred. And it's difficult to explain, and it's difficult to speak to, right? Often when we try to speak to it, we lose it a little bit. So I know that sometimes there's either a stubborn self-assurance or hesitancy to kind of move out of what many of us have been in for a long time, which is a very personal, very kind of alone journey with our sacred nature. And what I want you to know is that by a true tradition that honors you and honors your inner sacred, your hidden sacred, will only turn you again and again towards that, right? Will not pull you out from it, will not say, and I want you to learn these things now, and here's how you get closer to it, and do X, Y, and Z. When we're talking about the hidden sacred, it's a different movement, it's a remembrance. And there's what I've experienced with the school, and what I've experienced, what I've watched with a lot of women, is to whatever extent they engage with other women, what they received from it is fortification and deep validation and a nourishment in this place that can be strong on its own, but it gets weary, right? And I would love for you to have that, and to, in whatever way is going to be true for you, and to have trustworthy companionship on the journey, right? So, anyway, things to think about. And if you have any questions, you can always find us at support@hermysteryschool.com. Here's what I know, in conclusion, is that I know that you know. I know that you know. I know that salvation, redemption, and repair from horrible things is part of our inheritance. It will take devotion, but it's part of our inheritance. I know that. So both in you and around you, I know that this is true. And finally, I know that the emergence in you, that your sense of yourself as a sacred being, as a woman, partakes of a lineage that is thousands and thousands of years old. And no matter how interrupted it might feel to you, no matter how much static and confusion might be around you, misunderstanding, how much invisibility you may feel at times, the river still runs, right? And she's always pure, and she's always intact. And things like her mystery school arise again and again. Priestesses arise again and again. Sacred woman, medicine woman arises again and again through cultures, through time, through devastating hardship, because it partakes of the eternal. And because this is what we are, it cannot be erased. It cannot be. Only interrupted and only forgotten, right? But it never ceases being intact. Blessed be.